You cannot serve both God and money. This is a verse in the Bible from the book of Matthew, chapter 6, verse 24. And I found that when I actually live by this teaching, when I stop chasing money and making material wealth the number one goal in my life, and instead spend my time, energy, and focus on serving God and loving others, my life has become much better. And that all of the money I was afraid of losing because I stopped chasing it always appears to make its way to me when I need it regardless. Or it turns into something far more valuable that money could never buy. But I didn't always live like this. In fact, there was a point in my life where all I did was chase money. And it led me to make some decisions that I'm now very ashamed of. When I was still an atheist about 4 to 5 years ago, I went through this phase in my life where my number one focus was to just get as rich as I could as fast as I could. In other words, I worshiped wealth. I thought it would be the answer to all of the problems in my life at the time. I thought it'd bring me power, status, control, and some degree of meaning. And it didn't really matter to me how I got it, so long as it didn't end up with me, possibly going to jail, humiliating myself, or killing someone, basically. And so, after doing some research on how I could do this, I learned about something called drop shipping and began making some money that way. For those who don't know, drop shipping basically is a business model where you sell a product like on a website, and when an order is made, you don't actually ship the product to the customer yourself. You have a separate entity that stocks and ships the product for you. For example, right, let's say I sell a shirt online. Someone buys the shirt. I don't actually ship the shirt to the customer myself. Instead, I have some store in China who stocks the shirt, and I have them ship it to the customer for me. Now, the business model itself is not bad. It's a legit strategy. The problem is in how it can be used to basically scam people. And that's how I used it. What I did was I would basically find some cheaply made health product from China using a website like AliExpress, and I would falsely advertise it as some miracle cure to a health problem that people suffer from, when I knew full well that the product couldn't actually cure their illness. For example, I remember one product I did this with was with these neuropathy socks. Neuropathy, for those who don't know, is an illness that causes pain and numbness and weakness to the nerves in your hands and feet usually. The most common cause of it is diabetes. Long story short, I was selling these online and advertising them as an actual cure to neuropathy, which they definitely weren't. I was lying in the advertisement and telling people that these cheap-ass compression socks were going to cure their chronic illness. I remember a pair of socks cost me $2 to ship to the customer, but I was charging $20 for them. And when I began advertising them online, I started making some decent sales. And the more sales I made, the more I advertised them, which led me to making more sales. And so this went on for a couple of weeks until one exact moment I'll never forget. I remember one day while I was looking at the list of orders, I started looking at the shipping information for each order, right? And under the shipping information, you can see the names of the customers. And I just remember, for whatever reason, I started reading the names of these customers. Names like Anne, William, Donna, Grace, Mark, just normal names. And at that exact moment, after reading those names, these orders stopped being just a number on a spreadsheet to me. Reading these names reminded me that these are real people with real lives, real pain, real stories, real families, real struggles, real wants and needs and desires and dreams. And that they were spending their hard-earned money on this fake product I was selling with the hopes of easing their pain so that they could live a better life. And that I was taking advantage of that. I was deceiving them, lying to them, and capitalizing on their suffering just so I could make a quick buck. And I remember thinking that maybe these people couldn't afford health care. Maybe they're older and they don't know about the potential of online scams. Maybe their health is really failing and they're scared and are just trying anything they can to ease their pain. And I remember thinking to myself too that, like, what if this was my mom or my grandmother that I was scamming like this? It made me sick to my stomach to think about what I was doing. And I remember just feeling this like twisting feeling in my heart, and like a hole was being burned into my soul. I don't know how else to describe it. And what I came to realize at that moment was that my desire for money and material gain, my worship of wealth, had led me to compromise my own morals and values, and that it was leading me down a path of corruption that I wasn't even aware that I was falling into. And the real scary part was when I looked at it from a logical perspective, right? I could technically rationalize that I wasn't doing anything wrong. I could argue that, technically speaking, it's not my responsibility that the customer doesn't know that socks can't actually cure neuropathy, or that if the customer complains to me that the socks aren't working, I could just tell them that they weren't using them right and blame them. Or I could just put some stupid disclaimer in the product description that covers my ass, so that I could argue that the customer should have read the fine print before buying. And even worse, I realized, again, technically speaking, in a world where all that really matters is power, status, and wealth, I wasn't actually doing anything wrong. I was doing what I needed to do to get what I wanted. Because if wealth is Lord, then doing whatever it takes to get it is the right thing to do. But if that's true, I remember thinking to myself, then why does it feel so wrong? Why is it tearing me up inside? Anyway, from that day forward, I completely shut down the online store I was selling the socks from and stopped advertising the product completely. I just couldn't keep doing it. It was killing me inside. I realized that for me, I wasn't willing to do whatever it takes to make money. I wasn't willing to sacrifice everything to gain wealth because I saw what it cost me. Which led me to wonder if chasing money and making it lord over my life isn't what fulfills me and gives me what I'm looking for, then what will? And what exactly is it that I'm really looking for? Which led me down this whole path of searching for the meaning of life, which eventually led me to finding God, thankfully. Which brings us full circle, right? Man cannot serve both God and money. Ever since I've made serving God and loving others my number one priority and purpose, my life has improved in ways that I believe no amount of money could ever give me. And while living this way perhaps means I'll never be as wealthy as I could possibly be, that doesn't bother me at all. Not in the slightest. I'd rather live a financially humble life with God, love, and meaning than be wealthy and completely dead inside. Now, I want to clarify, I'm not saying that I believe money is evil or that working for money is bad or that wanting more money to better support yourself and those you love is bad. It's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that I believe the love and worship of money is evil, and that I found that if I dedicate my whole life to trying to get it, it'll lead me to ruin. And that Christ appears to confirm the lesson I learned. Man cannot serve both God and money. Anyway, I share all of this with the hope of just providing some clarity by sharing a painful experience of mine so that maybe you can learn from it too. And that if you find that you're chasing money or that you feel empty inside and you think that wealth will fix it, or you're just trying to find your way in life and you don't know what to chase, my humble recommendation is that you don't chase money and you don't worship material wealth. Rather, chase God, chase meaning, and love others. And if you do that, I believe you'll find that everything else will be taken care of.